We begin with the physics of the burden. You are exhausted, but not because of the work you are doing today. Look at your hands. They are not calloused from the labor of this morning. Look at your legs. They are not trembling from the miles you walked this afternoon. You are exhausted because of what you are carrying from yesterday. There is an invisible backpack strapped to your spine. You put it on years ago, perhaps without even noticing, and every day since you have added a stone to it. A conversation that went wrong, a betrayal that cut deep, a name that was called, a love that was withheld. You have been hiking up the mountain of your life, carrying the accumulated weight of every person who ever hurt you. You think this weight is necessary. You think it is your armor. You think that if you put it down, you will be vulnerable, or worse, that you will be letting them off the hook. But the spiritual reality is that forgiveness is not a favor you do for the other person. It is the legal release of a debt that was never going to be paid anyway. We are here to explore the anatomy of the grudge. We are here to look at the way we keep ourselves tethered to our villains, giving them a room in our minds rent-free, heating it with our anger, furnishing it with our memories. This is the script for the de-arming. We descend now into the cellar of the subconscious. It is dark down here. This is where the original wound lives. We deconstruct the moment where the fracture happened, the moment you were wronged, the moment the trust was broken. It sits there, preserved in the amber of your memory, untouched by time. You have built an entire identity around the scar. You have told the story of what they did to you so many times that it has become the load-bearing wall of your personality. I am the one who was left. I am the one who was cheated. I am the one who was ignored. You cling to these titles because you are afraid of who you would be without them. We must look at the hidden contract you signed in the dark. It is the subconscious belief that if you stay angry long enough, you can change the past. You think your rage is a time machine. You think if you burn hot enough, you can incinerate the event and rewrite the ending. You think your resentment is a form of justice, a way to punish the universe for letting this happen. But the ghost you are fighting is actually a projection. The person who hurt you is likely outliving their life, eating dinner, sleeping soundly, completely unaware of the war you are waging in your own basement. You are fighting a shadow. You are punching at smoke. The ghost is not haunting you. You are haunting the ghost. You are the one refusing to let the phantom fade. We move from the cellar to the blood. Bitterness is the only poison we drink while hoping the other person dies. Consider the chemistry of bitterness. It is not an abstract emotion. It is a toxic biological reality. When you hold on to a grudge, you are not just thinking a thought. You are instructing your body to prepare for a war that is not happening. Your body does not know the difference between a tiger standing in front of you and a memory of a betrayal playing in your mind. It reacts the same way. Your cortisol spikes, your heart rate elevates, your chest tightens, your vision narrows, you become acidic. You are eroding your own vessel from the inside out. You are keeping your system in a state of chronic emergency, burning up the energy that was meant for creativity, for love, for digestion, and using it to fuel a defense system against a phantom. This is the tragedy of the angry soul. You are burning down your own house to smoke out a rat that has already left. We must weave a meditation on softening. This is terrifying to the bitter mind because bitterness feels like power. Bitterness feels like a hard shell that keeps you safe. Softening feels like surrender. Softening feels like danger. But we ask the soul a terrifying question. Is the justice you are seeking worth the health you are losing? Look at the math. You are trading your sleep for their memory. You are trading your peace for their punishment. A punishment they aren't even feeling. You are waiting for an apology that may never come. You are waiting for them to wake up and realize what they broke. But while you wait, you are calcifying. You are becoming brittle. The anger that was meant to be a shield has become a cage, and the bars are made of your own resentment. We must begin the process of melting the ice. Not because the other person deserves warmth, perhaps they don't. Perhaps they deserve the cold. But we melt the ice because you deserve to stop freezing to death. You deserve to inhabit a body that is soft, pliable, and alive rather than one that is frozen in a defensive posture against the past. Now we face the mirror of the villain. This is the most challenging movement of the entire journey. It requires you to do the one thing your pain has forbidden you to do. Look at the person who hurt you. Not the monster you have created in your mind, the 10-foot-tall demon with the intent to destroy, but the actual fragile human being. We must explore the humanity of the hurtful. This is not to excuse them. This is not to say that what they did was acceptable or that the wound they left isn't real. It is to demystify them. When we are hurt, we tend to grant our abusers a mythic status. We turn them into powerful titans of malice who woke up with the specific intention of ruining our lives. But this grants them too much credit, and it grants them too much power. We must look at the cycle of trauma. We must acknowledge the ancient tragic law of the species. Hurt people hurt people. When you look closely at the villain, you rarely find a powerful monster. You find a fractured, broken machine. You find a person who is acting out of their own deficit, their own fear, their own unhealed history. A machine that malfunctions and cuts you is dangerous, yes, but it is not evil. It is broken. It is operating on faulty software. It is acting out of a desperate need to survive its own internal war. By reframing the attack as an accident of a broken world, you stop taking it personally. You realize that their cruelty was not a commentary on your value. It was a confession of their vacancy. They could not give you love because they did not possess it. They could not give you safety because they had never known it. You were looking for water in a dry well. You were banging your bucket against the stones, demanding a drink, furious that it was empty. But the well was not withholding the water to spite you. The well was simply dry. When you see them this way, not as a villain to be defeated, but as a tragedy to be pitied, you strip them of their authority over your peace. You realize that you have been letting a broken person determine your worth. You have been letting a ghost dictate your future. And in that realization, the grip of the hatred begins to slip. You don't forgive them because they earned it. You forgive them because you finally understand that they are too small to hold your happiness hostage any longer. We enter the courtroom of the heart. This is the formal act of debt cancellation. You are the judge, you are the jury, and strangely, you are also the jailer. You have the offender locked in a cell in your chest. You have kept them there for years, visiting them daily to remind them of their crime, to demand payment, to ensure they are suffering as much as you did. But look closely at the architecture of this prison. In order to keep them locked up, you have to stand outside the door guarding it. You cannot leave the building. You cannot go outside and play in the sun. You cannot travel. You cannot rest. You are just as trapped as they are. You cannot leave the prison because you are too busy making sure they serve their sentence. You thought you were punishing them, but you were actually detaining yourself. We write the words that sever the cords. We explore the verdict of not guilty by reason of reality. This does not mean you are saying what happened was okay. It does not mean you are inviting them back to your table. It does not mean the wound didn't matter. It means you are banging the gavel and declaring that the case is closed. It means you are looking at the ledger of your soul, seeing the red ink of what they took from you, the trust, the time, the innocence, and you are stamping it written off. You are saying, I am no longer willing to be a prisoner of this event. I am canceling the debt. You owe me nothing, not because you paid it, but because I am too rich to keep chasing pennies. This is the moment of the great release. It is a legal, spiritual transaction. You stop waiting for the apology to balance the books. You stop waiting for their failure to vindicate your pain. You realize that your healing is not dependent on their repentance. You take the keys from your belt, you unlock the door, and you tell the ghost to go. And as they leave, you realize the door wasn't keeping them in, it was keeping you out of your own life. You feel the straps of the invisible backpack loosen. You hear the heavy, metallic thud of the baggage hitting the floor. The weight is gone. The courtroom is silent. The war is over. And then, for the first time in years, you take a breath. The body reacts to the release immediately. This is the oxygen of forgiveness. You didn't realize how shallow your breathing had become. You didn't realize that for all this time, your diaphragm was locked in a subconscious brace, waiting for the next blow. But now the constriction in your chest, the one you had grown so used to that you thought it was just the shape of your ribs, suddenly releases. The muscles unclench. The armor falls. The ribs expand. The air rushes in, cool and sweet, filling corners of your lungs that haven't seen oxygen since the wound occurred. This is the sensation of lightness. You feel unmoored, almost dizzy with the lack of gravity. You have been carrying a boulder uphill for a decade, and suddenly the boulder is gone. You almost stumble forward because the resistance you were leaning against has vanished. You begin to understand the economics of your own soul. You didn't realize how much energy it took to hate. You didn't realize how much caloric burn was required to sustain a feud, to keep the fires of resentment stoked, to rehearse the arguments in the shower. It was a full-time job. It was exhausting. Now that energy is returned to you. It floods back into your system, not as anger, but as vitality. You feel a sudden surge of creativity. You feel a desire to laugh, not cynically, but genuinely. You look at the sky and it seems bluer, not because the sky has changed, but because the film of bitterness has been peeled from your eyes. We end in the void of the clean slate. The silence is no longer haunted. It is empty. It is spacious. The room in your mind where the villain used to live is vacant. It is quiet. There is no one there to argue with. There is no one there to blame. You sweep the floor. You open the windows. You let the light in. You stand in the center of this empty room, and for the first time, you do not feel lonely. You feel free. You are ready now. You are light enough to move. You are preparing the soul for the next great work, the self-return. You are not just a survivor of the past. You are the architect of the future. The ghost is gone. The house is yours.